All right, we're doing the second part of our solving literal equations unit. These are some challenge example problems. Let's see, let's go ahead and try these. I have P over Q equals R over S. It's really a proportion, and I want to solve for S. Ooh, well, I noticed that S is in my denominator. Well, I do notice that I have a ratio equals a ratio. One way I could solve this is just cross multiply. So I'm going to do PS, P times S equals R times Q. Ooh, now I have S, I got rid of my fractions. I'm going to divide by P. And I have S equals RQ over P, or QR over P, however you want to write it. Number 8. Oh, sometimes, especially in science, we'll have a variable that's actually an uppercase and a lowercase. If that's the case, those actually stand for different things. So I have to keep the uppercase E as a variable and the lowercase e as a variable. Uppercase R as a variable and the lowercase r as a variable, because we like to be as confusing as we can to make life interesting. So in this case, we're going to solve for little e. Well, I have little e in my denominator. I'm going to go ahead. I notice that this is also a proportion, so I'm going to cross multiply, remembering that I have like invisible parentheses here. So I have big E times little r equals little e times big R plus little r. Good gracious, this is interesting. I am going to, here I notice that if I solve for E, I have E by itself over here, so I'm going to divide by this, divide by this. So I have E equals, that one's kind of funky. There we go. That one's not quite as neat, but oh well. Number 9, oh my goodness, 1 over P plus 1 over Q equals 1 over F, and I want to solve for F. I want F equals blah. This is interesting. This wouldn't be so hard, but I have all of my variables are in my denominator. I don't really like that. So I'm going to think back to when we were solving equations that had fractions in them, and we were multiplying by the least common multiple. The least common multiple of P, Q, and F is PQF. So I'm going to multiply this whole thing by PQF, and I'm going to write it out the long way. So this first term, I have PQF times 1 over P. Second term, PQF times 1 over Q, and I could write these over 1 if I want to, equals PQF times 1 over F. Now I'm going to go ahead and start simplifying. The P over P cancels out, and I am left with just QF plus, second term, the Q and the Q cancel out, and I'm left with PF equals, in this third case, the F and the F cancel out, and I'm left with PQ. Whew! Well, got rid of those fractions, that's lovely, but I still haven't solved for F. Oh, but I have an F in this term and an F in this term. This reminds me of that problem that we just did last time. I'm going to factor out this F out of both terms. So I factor out this F. F times what gives me QF? Q. F times what gives me PF? Positive P. And that side just stays the same. Now I have F times this whole thing. Now I'm pretty close to getting F by itself. I'm going to divide by this whole funky thing. And I'm just going to, that cancels out, and I'm going to rewrite it. F equals PQ over, I'm going to write P plus Q instead of Q plus P, so I just have my variables in the same order. And there we go. Wow, that was fancy. And our last challenge problem, we're going to solve for P. Oh my goodness, P is like in the middle of a fraction, in the middle of this parentheses. Whew. Well, again, to unravel it, we kind of think, in what order was this equation created? So I'm going to kind of go through the order that it was created. I start with my mystery number, my p. I divide it by t. I subtract e, and I take that whole value and multiply it by f. So now let's unravel that and work backwards. The last thing I did was multiply it by f, so I'm going to divide this whole thing by f. So now I have u over f equals pt minus e. Great. Still wanting to get this by itself. The second to last thing I did was I subtracted e, so now I'm going to add e. I get u over f plus e equals p over t. I'm almost getting there. Now I have p divided by t, so I'm going to multiply by t. Those cancel out. I have to multiply this entire thing by t, so it's really important I use those parentheses. So now I have p equals t times this whole stinking thing, u over f plus e. So that one was a much more complicated one, but if you think about it in terms of what, starting off with your number and then what is done in order, and then you just start unraveling that, going backwards to forwards, then it becomes a lot easier. And you can go ahead and work on those challenge problems.